Hello and welcome again. I'm James Henderson, your president here at Florida Speakers Association, and I am delighted today to be in the speaker spotlight with Dr. Rachel Cartwright. Now, most of you know that she is our president-elect, which means that next year, beginning June the 1st at 12:01 a.m., she is going to become your president for next year. And so we're just going to kick back and we're going to talk here in the speaker spotlight. Is something that we've been trying to do just so that you can get to know all of the members a little bit better. So if you're a member and I haven't called you yet, just remember your phone's probably going to ring at some point in time, and I'm going to say, hey, let's jump into the speaker spotlight. So Rachel, welcome. Thanks for being in the speaker spotlight with me today.
Thank you, James.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I am. This is fun.
Okay, super. First question, we're going to jump right outside of the box. What made you say yes when I asked you to be president-elect?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think I've always liked to be in a leadership role whenever I become actively involved in either a committee meeting or an association. I don't like to just kind of sit back and take everything in. I like to be a part of what's going on or planning things that are going in the future. And I think towards the end of last year, when I started taking on a little bit more of an active role, it just seemed like a natural progression that I thought at one time I would like to be leading the Florida Speakers Association. And you asked, and it was the right time, and I said yes.
Okay, super. We're going to come back to that. But here's what I want to do. One of the things that I really want people to understand is that we have got a number of people in our organization that have lots of different types of businesses. And what I'd like for you to do, and I've asked everyone this question before, describe your business to a potential client, or in your case, 3 or 4 different types of clients, and describe your business if you're describing it to one of your peers, somebody in the speakers organization.
Okay, well, let me take the one where I describe it to a client, because you're absolutely right. I have a diversified business is what I've done, which actually has served me well when things change about, in the world like we have right now. So for the most part, I work as a consultant and primarily a trainer. And a trainer in the healthcare industry. And my specialty that I work on basically is legal and regulatory compliance issues. It sounds like a lot, but it's just, it's knowing particular things that the healthcare industry has to be compliant with in order to continue to receive federal funding from the government. So I help them make certain that those little pieces work right. And so when they're inspected, then they just check the box and they're good to go. So one of my client base that I have are law firms that I help them review medical records. And, we establish a relationship there where I help them with medical cases that have concerns. Another client base that I have is the junior college. So I offer them instruction since I'm a registered nurse. Then I provide instruction in the hospital setting to their students so that they get good clinical application at the bedside, which is always kind of a fun thing for me because I still enjoy being a nurse. I just don't want to be it full time. So that's one of the things that I do. And then the other, aspect of what I do is I go out and I teach and I speak to nurses or healthcare organizations about regulatory compliance, documentation, issues in the medical records. So I really kind of do 3 things. So I am diversified in and of myself. So I talk to other speakers, I try and find out initially what it is that they do. And I identify myself as a consultant. And then depending on how the conversation goes, I say that I'm a trainer. Because if I work as a consultant, I truly do. I go in and consult with the executive leadership teams of organizations, or I can go down and work in the very small groups and instruct on in-services like we would, or have small group sessions like I'm doing this week, promoting and encouraging nurses to do something similar to what it is that I do. So it's kind of a long answer to 2 little questions, but I truly am diversified in a lot of things that I personally do in my business.
Okay, so cool. So we're gonna back up just a second. Of those three, which one is your favorite? If you could eliminate two others and just keep one, which one would that be?
Well, it's easy. I want to be on stage again sometime. I love being out in front and working with a group of individuals, whether it be executive leaders in an organization or if it be nurses, where most of my speaking engagements have been in front of a group of nurses in healthcare organizations. And it's just really good to share with them a lot of the insight that I've had, to engage and feel the energy that is in the room. Is just I get a kick out of that. And then invariably, when I do go out and speak to a group, there's usually two, maybe three people in that group that I've really inspired in some way that I really hadn't even had any intention to, but it touched them in some way that they have come up to the stage and we have engaged in a more personal conversation. And I've been able to meet more of a personal need just because there was that special connection. And I miss that a lot because of all the changes that we're doing today. And I certainly hope we can get back in that, as soon as possible.
I have asked you before, and what is it that you miss the most? I hear that you're one of the few people out there that misses the airplanes, that misses the airports, and misses that type of travel.
Yeah, I do miss it. I love to fly. I mean, and it's funny because when I was going through my final training, I fly Delta, and Delta's my airline. If they don't go there, then and if Delta doesn't go there, I don't go there. And it was funny, just in the middle of the pandemic, well, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like 43 miles shy of being a million miles on Delta. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to wait until whenever to get those 43 miles. And I did, because I flew out to Denver recently and was able to capture this. And now I have my little red tag. But I really enjoy flying. I like the event of flying. I like going to different places and I meet lots of neat people. And it's where I did most of my study work when I finished my training, my PhD. I mean, Delta is the one that carried me through that. So that's how I did all my research and stuff.
Awesome. So that's a perfect segue. I'm glad that you said it that way. Because here's the deal. We know that you work with lawyers who deal with doctors, and you deal with nurses, and you speak to nurses. So there is a natural assumption that when someone says Dr. Rachel Cartwright, they assume that you may be an MD. Well, we know now that you're not an MD. Tell us about what your doctorate is in and how that works with your business.
Yeah, and that was something that kind of caught me off guard a little bit when I did get my degree, and I was being recognized as Dr. Cartwright. Um, some of the people in the public or some physicians I would be working with, if I was in a hospital, they say, "Oh, what specialty are you in?" I said, "No, I'm a PhD," and then they go, "Oh, what did you study in?" So it's an automatic, it's natural assumption that when you say you're a doctor, that you're a medical doctor. But I got my PhD in public policy and administration, and I focused on law and public policy because that's really kind of what my background landed up being when I deal with regulatory compliance and issues with dealing with the government, and those just kind of naturally fit. And one of my interests in public policy was looking at health literacy. And that's one of the ways that we help the public learn how to take better care of themselves so that they don't have readmissions into the hospital. So that was really kind of what my research was on health literacy. A public policy statement is what we had.
Okay, super. So now, I am an aspiring speaker, and I'm at a meeting and I pull Rachel off to the side and I say, Rachel, I love watching you. I love what you do. Tell me, what is your secret sauce? What's your secret sauce, Rachel? What makes you different and better than other people as a speaker? Why do you stay booked so often?
Well, I think it's a growing thing, and it didn't happen overnight. But one of the first things that I remember being a very novice speaker, and we're talking 15, maybe 18 years ago, is I remember being so nervous getting up on stage, and it was just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I wanted to because it was really cool, but you had to get up the stairs to get on stage and you had to get over that piece of it. Well, what I learned and figured out after probably, maybe 9 months or so to a year, because it does take time, is that the more I was prepared, the less anxiety that I had. The less I was prepared, I was like, could hardly get up the stairs. So I said, okay, I got that covered. So I just was really over prepared for every talk that I had to do. And I tried to not use notes because I felt it decreased my credibility, which meant that I had to study, 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 study. I mean, I may have a couple of notes on a podium, but I really didn't like to stay in behind a podium. I wanted to work the stage and work the audience and stay in connection with them. So once I kind of figured the stage presence piece down and being prepared for the talk that I was going to deliver, then I started having fun with the audience. You start relaxing, you find some people in the audience that you can kind of play with a little bit, or you throw out a joke and it actually works. And it's like, wow, that was really fun. Now not all the time do they work. And then you, in your mind, you're saying, well, that was a dud, and then you just go on. But once you start getting over that, then it's when you really start having fun as a speaker, because you kind of know what needs to be in place before you actually get up on stage and do a delivery.
Right. Okay, super. So you mean to tell me a group of nurses is out there having fun when they should be like doing rounds or something? I mean, how does that work? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, they do. They do. They say, many times they will come back and they'll say, I was never bored. You had my attention the whole time. I don't know how you tell so many stories. I've learned so much from you. And I just, go from story to story to story, go back and pull up and just say, you remember Mrs. Jones that we talked about this morning? And they go, yeah, yeah. I said, well, then let's take her here. I mean, I just pull them right along with me when I talk with them through storyline, but with really heavy content. So they have fun learning heavy content.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. So here's what we're going to do. Let's take a step back. Having gone through COVID and all the machinations that come with that, what's been your biggest challenge? And tell me one thing that you learned that was a big positive to your business going forward that you wouldn't have learned otherwise had we not been forced to do the things that we do with COVID.
Oh, God, that's a weird question. COVID was, was a little bit intimidating to me at first because even though I was diversified, I was very busy on the road. And I also had my legal clients, and I had no idea how it was going to affect my, my faculty work at the college, which got nixed right at the beginning. So it was like a no-brainer. I wasn't going to do that anymore. Everything was on Zoom. But I was really a little bit concerned at how it was going to affect my legal business when all the speaking industry came to a screeching halt, like we all know it did. And in fact, one of my clients has been moved 4 times. And, I'm hopeful that this last stick will stay put, but, we're kind of waiting that out. But my legal business actually became busier. And I thought, wow, I was just felt like that was just really a blessing for me since, 2 things kind of fell away and one's kind of risen to the top. What that also allowed me to do is kind of say, okay, what I have put instilled in my own professional career was really not such a bad idea, is having a little bit of diversification for the unknown. And I know that I've spoken about, fear of the unknown is something that is very real that people are afraid of. And just knowing that not all your eggs are in one basket is reassuring. And that was very reassuring to me, knowing that I didn't take a big hit like some people did just because I had that extra piece. Now, I will say that I work very hard. I burn a lot of candles and I stay up late many times because I have all this juggling going on. But, I like to work. And what it's also given me an opportunity during the downtime, if you will, for my speaking business is to see how I want to change it a little bit this coming next year. And I'm really looking forward to making a little bit of a change in my speaking business because I've had a little bit of downtime to really reflect and think about it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, so one final thing about that. Tell me about your summit.
I had a legal nurse consultant summit because basically that's what I call them. You know, we call ourselves legal nurses when we work with attorneys. And the summit came about through, in the middle of July, last July. And it was, it happened during the time when we were all kind of quiet. But the summit came about because I've always wanted to do something similar to that. And we had already started planning what was happening. And my daughter had graduated college, and this was part of her expertise in the editing and some of the writing of the copy that we had to deal. And I learned immediately that she is way more talented than I ever thought she was when I said, Victoria, here, I want you to handle the behind the scenes to all this technology. And oh my gosh, what an amazing job she did with that. I mean, I was just like, you are awesome. Because there's no way I could have come across and we could have put that on without her skill and expertise in being behind the scenes to do this virtually. It was a huge success. I had a lot of really positive feedback from the nurses that attended, and we're going to change it just a little bit again for next year. And I actually got 2 new nurses that have come to work with me privately for mentoring out of the summit. So, any little success out of these things when you start new, you just consider it a win. You can't just go from one to the peak right away. You have to, every year, you're going to be a little different. So I would share that with anybody that's trying to do something a little bit unique, something different, starting something new, that just take a little bit of the successes and wins along the way, and it eventually will grow.
Right? But you had to jump right in, and you were planning that summit, and you jumped right into the virtual piece, and that fit right into what was going on with COVID, et cetera. So you moved kind of out of that. Now let's switch over just a little bit. Okay, so if you were not a nurse, a speaker, or even if you didn't, we'll let you keep your doctorate. But if you weren't a nurse and you weren't a speaker, what do you think you'd be doing? What would Rachel be doing?
Well, I, I was raised in the church. My dad was a minister. I always have liked to reach out and help others, whatever it is. From early time in junior high and high school is when I actually began to see that I liked reaching out to those that were struggling along the way. I mean, in one sense of the word, I mentored a girl. I tutored her, I guess you'd call it. Then I tutored her in German, and she was legally deaf. So we had a great time trying to teach her German in high school. And I had no problem with that. There were a lot of kids that thought that was weird, and they said, I don't want to be a part of it. But to me, that was just like, it was a natural thing for me to help others that don't have the abilities like we do. And I've always seemed to stumble into those that do. And I always thought that, maybe one day I'd like to go out on a mission field or a mission trip, not necessarily to a third world country, but somewhere here in the United States of America, and reach out to those that are in need. And I just never quite had the right timing or had the right funds that it would come together. But, I still got a lot of life left. So hopefully I can reach out and do that one day. But I really want to be able to reach others a little bit more than what I'm doing now.
Okay, so we'll replace the doctor with a reverend. How about that?
I don't know about that, but
Reverend Rachel Cartwright. Okay,
yeah.
so let's stay on the whole fun thing. All right. So now I'm told that in college you were a college athlete, right? You were a college athlete. Now, well, a lot of people don't know that. So tell us about your experience as a college athlete and what college that was, because that's kind of a segue from the last answer.
Yeah. Well, I was a gymnast in high school, and I got a gymnastics scholarship to Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I went to college part of college anyway, on a gymnastics scholarship. So I was the women's gymnastics team, and I did the all-around competition, which was bars, beam, vault, and floor exercise. and we, competed. So, I mean, it was a difficult time, but it was a lot of fun. And, we had an accident as a gymnast, and that's how I got my pretty grill because I fell on the uneven parallel bars and knocked my front teeth out. That was quite an experience. But it all was good. I got some nice, good teeth afterwards. But you learn a lot from gymnastics, and I try and think back on that as to say, what could I have learned from it? And the being an individual sport that's kind of team but individual, because you want to win as a team, but individuals can also win individual, events or ribbons when you're going through. And I think probably the tenacity that I've developed and the never give up attitude that I have has come from part of that athletic training, because all the apparatuses basically you can fall off of. I mean, you can't fall off the floor, but you can fall down on the floor. But everything else you can fall off of. And the only way that you do be successful in the bars beam vault is if you stay on the apparatus. So when you fall off, you get back on, get back on, get back on, and then before long you fall off less and less and less. You stick every routine, and then you get awarded for that. And I think that's part of the training that has been instilled in me, is just never give up. Even though it gets hard, just never get up, shake it off, get back up, and just do it again. Try a different angle, rethink it. What did I do wrong? And try and do it better. So in that respect, I think it has really helped me be successful as an independent business owner and a speaker.
Okay, so super. So when you take over as president, you're going to lead us off in a couple meetings in some cartwheels and round-offs and whatever you call that stuff, right?
Yeah, I'll stick it. Every time.
All right, so tell me, why is NSA and specifically FSA an important part of what you do with your business? Why are you involved?
Why am I involved? Well, number one, NSA is nationwide, and it recognizes a lot of speakers that do speaking at a level that I could only hope to aspire to, and you learn so much from those that are a part of their trade. They've refined it and they've mastered it. And so you can learn a lot from those. And many of them that I have encountered, they're very giving people. They share their trade, unlike what I'm in now, that we don't share real well. Okay. But the Speakers Association, those that I have been exposed to, share. And that's a good thing. It's not like they're afraid to share some of their pearls of wisdom. They just want to help you get better. They want to help you be as strong. And I think that's a good draw for many speakers in the industry. For Florida Speakers Association, I mean, we cover such a huge geographical area, and the commitment that I have seen from those members that have attended on a regular basis for the last 6 years that I've been a part of the Florida Speakers Association is that they're committed as well, and they're equally giving and sharing of ideas and encouraging when you do kind of develop a relationship where you kind of let your guard down a little bit. Then they're very encouraging. So that's why I like to be a part of that. And what I hope for, as we continue through this year and moving into the next year, is I hope to continue to inspire that amongst our members so that we all can receive that kind of input and encouragement as we build our own businesses and hopefully get back out on the road again.
Well, that's awesome. I've certainly been blessed to have people like you and Fabio and Jean and Helen and Caroline to work with throughout the course of this year, and it's been very difficult, and it has been very, very different. My experience as president has been unlike anyone else's that I know of, right? So it's been a little bit different, but you guys have been awesome to work with, and that's really really impressive. Just a couple more questions I'm going to hit you with.
Sure.
The first one is, tell me someone in the speaking industry who really inspires you, or that you look up to, or that you would point someone else to look up to.
Oh my goodness. There's I guess a couple of people that I look at. One is, well, I'm going to say two people. One is in my religious world where I'm at, is the speaker of the church, the minister of the church that I go to, because always try and analyze, even though I listen to the message, I always try and analyze how does he take you through from the beginning to the end, and because he tells a lot of stories. And to be a good speaker, you have to incorporate stories. So I always study that to see how you can fit it in. And I like the way he does it. He engages the audience, he engages us in, and I try and learn from that, not only from the message, but also learn from the craft, learn from the style, because his style is very similar to how I feel like I present as a speaker. As far as thinking of, and another one particular speaker, I think Craig Valentine kind of inspired me the most, again, because of storytelling. And one of the things that was shared at one of the sessions or the meetings that we had was he puts 1 point every 10 minutes. And I thought that's a really good way to think about it. So when I go back, I look at my programs that I've developed because I'm converting all of my face-to-face programs to virtual and having a virtual platform now for education because of COVID, that I'm going back and I'm looking at those and analyzing, do I make a point about every 10 minutes? And that has really kind of helped me refine some of my programs that are a little bit tighter fit. And not that they're loosey-goosey, but it just makes them tighter and more prescriptive on what I want to deliver during that. And I think he's probably been one that has called me to action more than others because it's something it's tangible that I can take and put right in to what I is actually doing with my presentations that I currently have right now.
It's super. Awesome. So one more quick one. Now I know about you that you have lots of family, got a couple grandkids. If someone would catch you hanging out with your family, what's one real fun thing that you guys love to do?
Watch football, eat pizza, drink beer. I mean, what more is there than that? I mean, my son lives close to me and he has 3 boys, and we get together football season, and in the afternoons we always plan to get together and watch football, and we have beers and so either hot dogs, hamburgers, or pizza is usually what we do for football. And we wear our Dolphin t-shirts so that we're supporting our team here.
Needs to.
Yeah, when it's hot, then, and which it usually is, as you know, when it's hot, then we get either playing the pool for a little bit, or the little ones, the grandkids, the little ones, they have their little play pool. And so we sit out and listen to music, either, 60s, 70s, or 80s, or jazz music out, and just, chill. I mean, the kids are great when they were growing up. I love them dearly, but they're a lot more fun when they're grown.
And you got grandkids, you can give them back.
That's so right, man. They're great.
Thanks for hanging out with me. It's been awesome, and I want people to get to know their president for next year. I'm going to let you take us out, okay? I'm going to let you have the last long word. I'll have a short word at the end. I'm going to let you have the last word. For someone who is thinking about being in the association, whether it's the National Speakers Association, the Florida Speakers Association, make a convincing case at the end for why people should be a part of what it is that we do here at NSA and FSA.
Well, I think that if anyone happens to see this and they've either been wanting to be a speaker on a little higher level, and I'm speaking through my own lens, through like nurses, because a lot of nurses do a lot of teaching. A lot of teaching can be in different formats. It can be one-on-one with patients, or it can be in venues with in-services, or they're actually going out and doing training with other nurses. And that's the beginning blocks of establishing something that you may not have ever thought about. And I think, when you go back and look at all the opportunities that you have had to speak, there's a reason why you're always asked to be in those roles, and it's because you do a good job. I mean, nobody wants to listen to someone who doesn't hold the attention. So if you're already being asked to be in those roles, more of a leadership type role, imparting that information, it's either that you're well-spoken, You have a good knowledge base, and you have the skill to support it. And that's all you need, training, knowledge, and skill to make certain that you can get out in front of people. And if it's anything that you might even want to embark upon, we certainly have the Speaker Academy that is within reach for probably many that never even thought that it might be a problem. And if it's something that they're thinking about, they can either look at it this year or next year and plan what is necessary to qualify. And I just think that, that whatever you want to do, if you think about it and dream about it, because dreaming in reality, trying to stay on a balance beam, you got to see yourself staying up there, and you will eventually. That's part of what you have to do. And I think the Florida Speakers Association can really do that. We're a group that's able to rally around and help promote others to be, successful at what their desires are. So that's kind of, I guess, what I would share with those that might see this. They're contemplating being part of our group.
Okay, awesome. So, Rachel, again, I want to thank you for hanging out and spending some time with me. And for those of you who are watching, this is going to be your president next year, and I guarantee you that things will be organized. They will be spectacular, and so you'll certainly have my support because I've had your support throughout the course of this year. So, once again, in the Speaker Spotlight, we're letting you get to know those members of Florida Speakers Association that maybe you didn't know before. So, if your phone rings, make sure you answer, because I'm going to have all of you somewhere in the Speaker Spotlight. So I'll see you next time right here in the Spotlight.